My parents really, I saw them, I watched as they worked double shifts, all around the clock to make ends meet. And they always had such a high value, put such a high value on education. And so it sounds like your parents were good, honest, hardworking folks and really supported you and your sister. And here you were, right? And you're like, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try inspecting bikes. I'm going to go and clean for people or do this for people. And so I'm curious, as a kid, it sounds like you didn't have a whole lot of entrepreneurs around you, or did you, to set that example?
I didn't. And that's something that really held me back, I think, in my own business growth. It's funny you ask that, because only later on in life did I learn that my grandfather was really the first true entrepreneur in our family. He bought and owned the 2-room house that my grandmother and he lived on, that we would go visit for 2 weeks every summer. But he had a cherry orchard behind that house right there in the Columbia River in Wenatchee, Washington. So he would get up really early, the break of dawn, to go walk around in his rubber boots and make sure all the cherry trees were taken care of. And he would come back at night and do the same thing. His day job, though, was at Alcoa on what was called the pot line, I've learned, basically putting metal in to melt it, to shape it. This was not an air-conditioned, sit in your own cubicle type of job. So he worked hard, sun up to sundown, but he also had some rental properties, which I was a big fan of. And so only later on in life did I realize he was really the first entrepreneur. So to really give you a metaphor of how important that was to me, when he passed several years ago, my mom called and said, "Hey, Derrick, what would you like from Grandpa as a reminder?" And I said, well, what I want is a physical object that actually touched his body. So my mom was able to find his hard hat that says Alcoa on the top with his miner's lamp on it. And there was a picture of me, of all things, having fun sitting on his lap. So in a shadow box, I've got his hard hat and a picture of he and I, and it's right in my office right now. And it's a reminder to me of, look, Derrick, when you face adversity, when things get hard, remember your grandfather, because he set the example for you, and you want to keep making him proud, and also just keep using the tools you've been given to grow your business. So it's a very emotional, but it's a very meaningful thing for me to think back on.
But what are your thoughts around the direction of college? Where are we heading with that? Do you feel like it's still relevant, valuable in 20 years, people who are just starting to have babies now? What are your thoughts around that? And if you think college is valuable, what kind of college savings tools are you advising your clients to use?
Well, college is certainly the tool that most people view as the ticket to long-term success. Most parents today would say, look, if I can just give my son or daughter a college degree, they're off my payroll and they now are set for life. What I would say is that is changing and changing rapidly. So let me back up and share a couple thoughts. First of all, it's vital that you and your spouse, your partner, have a vision for what it is you want for your son or daughter. And then it's very important at an early age to begin dialoguing with your son or daughter on expectations. The shock and awe approach of surprising your son or daughter the night they graduate high school is an ineffective approach. And it doesn't build trust. It simply erodes the relationship, because what you're teaching your kids is, can I trust mom or dad to tell me what's raw and real with our money? More is caught than taught. And so you don't want to put yourself in that position, have to go back and backfill and kind of grovel your way back in. A couple years before they graduate high school, have the discussion. Here's what mom and dad can afford. Here's our plan. Here's our expectation of you. I'll give you an example. With our own kids, given the fact that my upbringing is different than my children's upbringing, it's just how generations change, I put in place for my kids what I call the half and half program, where they can basically pick any school they want to go to. I will pay half, but then they're on the hook for half. Now, what that teaches is, look, I'm not a big believer that the Ivy schools or private schools are the way to go. I'm a product of a state school, and I realized quickly, it doesn't matter where you go to college at. It matters what you do with what you learned at that college. That's the simple fundamental principle that I operate by. And I've seen it proven over and over again, especially since I've graduated. Nobody really cares where I graduated college. They just want to know, do you have the competence and the authority and the trustworthiness and the empathy to guide me to my financial goals? That's all that matters. So have the discussion with your kids early. Give them a game plan that everybody buys into. Some parents we've coached around even incentivizing their kids. Look, if you give more scholarships, that will reduce down your part of it. Okay, so that's one way to think about it. I am no longer convinced, Julie, to your question, that college is the only way to go. Now, here's the battle, though. Let's define the stakes and what's at play right now. Culture today still says that a college degree not only has value, but a high amount of value. That if an employer is looking at different resumes, one with a college degree, one without a college degree, the one with the college degree is going to get more eyeball time on that piece of paper. So that'll need to be debunked over time. What we are finding, though, now is people want the risk removed. So no employer, in my understanding and what I've observed, even as an employer myself, wants your job to be the first job the person's ever had. Most employers prefer you to have cut your teeth on somebody else's dime, then you're the recipient of that experience, if that makes sense. So a wise job seeker today, a wise college graduate, can talk about the skills they acquired while in college, the internships they went on, the interviews they did with successful people, the books they read, the business opportunities they failed and succeeded at. Because what that does is it tells me this person is more than just a sheet of paper, which commoditizes them again. They decommoditize themselves by really adding value even before they came to me to look for a job. So now let's be candid, though. Do I think most parents are prepared to have that discussion that I just said? Probably not. They may have grown up barely making ends meet. They may not feel successful financially themselves. So why would they have the confidence to have that discussion? So what I'm saying right now is be curious with your kids. You do it all in real estate, whether it's stocks, bonds, have the discussion and say, you know what? I don't have the answer to that, but let's be curious together. And one of the core principles that we've gotten great feedback on from people is teach your kids not to be the recipient of money, but rather the creator of money. And what that means is to go into the workforce thinking, how can I begin to launch my own business, my own side hustle, my own side gig, where they use the day job to buy them time to keep their bills current, to make a little bit of progress, but then to do research and development on themselves. I mentioned the focus group earlier, to see what people tell them, you're really good at this. This is a talent that I see you have naturally, that they could parlay that into their own gig to either use that to pay off debt more quickly, save for the kids' retirement, or launch their own business entirely. So it's all about flipping the script that this 9-to-5 job is the way to go. I want to tear that up and throw it out the window, but we want to make sure that you're not just moving from one job to the next one. You want to make sure you have a clear plan, but I think knowing how to be the creator of money is the first step.